Hi, and welcome to this episode of Meet the Artist at FrameFlower. My name is Ben Kusold, I'm an animator here, and today I'll be speaking with Brian Whitmire. Brian is an amazingly talented animator. He's done cinematics at Blur, visual effects at DNEG and MPC, and is now doing feature anim at Tangent. Brian's someone who always pushing himself and seeks out that steep learning curve. We talk about his experience with the industry, with both giving and receiving feedback, and how to stay level-headed and grow as an artist. I enjoyed this conversation very much, and I think you will as well. And without further delay, here's Brian Whitmire.
It's crazy to think about, you know?
Yeah. But it's also like, yeah, it's come like there's a lot of stuff going on now, so it's pretty cool. Yeah, like what I was thinking of like the junior days as well, and I don't know, like I was talking to Jacob about it, and of course he was my brother in 3D modeling, and he was saying that like because I was kind of saying that I was so intimidated when I was a junior. Especially like fresh out of school and getting feedback was pretty daunting. He was saying that for him it wasn't at all. He was really excited when he got invited into that dark cinema. The
sweatbox.
Yeah. Did you have the same experience, or like how did you feel?
Getting feedback when I was a junior.
Those early days, fresh out of school.
Yeah, I think that's when I would have been that's when I was at Blur.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I felt like, that's a really good question. I feel like I was in between just being grateful to get the feedback.
Right.
And also just being scared about what they were going to say.
Yeah.
But I don't know if but I don't think I took it personally. I think I was like,
yeah, I think that's, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I was, before getting reviews, I would be nervous. I'd be like super, super nervous. Yeah. But I think it's because I was in a room full of people that I love their work.
Right,
so I didn't want them to think that, I don't know. It's not a realistic way to think about it, but you're just like,
no, but
how am I going to do the notes that they're asking? And then two, I hope no one's paying attention to all the notes that I'm getting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I think you're nailing it with like don't take it personally. I think that's key.
Yeah, super key.
Yeah,
super key. And you can tell when people do. Like I think there are people that. Yeah. People that get defensive or try to come up with excuses about. Stuff rather than just take the feedback.
Right.
And then. Deliver another version. I can tell when someone is taking something personally. Yeah,
like you only have the time. You only have a very brief moment of time with these supervisors or lead. It's like you get to drain them for knowledge. So you don't want to waste that time saying, "But my idea was that."
You're just like, shut up. Just give it. I want to ask all the questions you have and all these other things.
Yeah.
I would look at it like that time. Don't give anything. Just take everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't talk as the least amount, and then ask as many questions as you can. But everything else, just let it.
Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah. It took me a while. I think it was like, the fear of those dumb questions. But then after a while, you realize like any doubt, just get it out. Just ask the question, and then. Like the worst thing that can happen is someone smiles a bit. Like it's like you don't want to. Yeah.
I think I did that. That's in line with what you're saying. I think I did this thing a lot where I would say sorry all the time. Like I would just be like, "Oh, sorry, this is like a stupid question, but this and this and this," and then I don't know. I still do it probably, but like
I think
the longer and longer you realize like it is true that there's like no dumb questions. It's just, the fact that you're asking anything, is good.
Yeah. So was Blur the first place you joined after school?
It was like the second one, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, that is crazy. Yeah.
It I got so lucky.
Yeah.
And it was it was the second job. The first job was work at the studio. That's right when I got out of school. It was a really small boutique studio that was like a little miniature version of Blur, and they were doing something for E3, for game cinematics. And so I went there, but it was a short contract. It was only like 2 or 3 months, I think.
Okay.
And then after that, I applied to Blur, and then someone had quit the day before I had applied.
Oh.
And it was just like the timing worked, and I think they were looking for a junior, or someone that just really wasn't experienced at all.
Yeah.
I interviewed, and I was nervous as shit, and I thought I fucked it up, and I was like, it was crazy, man. It was crazy. I just was like, man, I'll clean the toilets. I don't care. I'll do whatever.
yeah.
Like I'll do whatever. I didn't haggle at all with the contract. I was like, yes, just I don't care.
Dude, when I in your reel you had a shot from when they first tried to kickstart did a Kickstarter for Goon. Yeah. I for people who don't know, like the Goon is a comic book that Blur was running a Kickstarter campaign in, was it 2013?
Yeah, I think it was 2013.
Right. I
mean, it was for a while, man. I mean,
dude, I just so you guys did this trailer, or well, I found out when I watched your reel that you worked on it as well, because I remember being like 2013 or 12, as I was super young in it, and I just remember watching that and going like, fuck, I think I would give a limb, like just like pick any limb just to go and work on that stuff.
It's crazy. That's what it was like. That's what it was like to be at Blur. It was like, I don't know, man. It was like, because Blur is known for just churning. They do quick turnaround, and now they're more involved. I mean, they're doing the Love, Death, and Robots stuff, which is awesome. That's awesome. Really, the bread and butter before all of that was just, and they're still doing it, which is kicking around cinematics, trailers, that type of stuff. And so everything was so quick, like the turnaround so quick. So every month or 2 months, you'd be on something new. Yeah, but it would always be like something that you'd just be like, man, I would kill to be on this. And it was like that. It was crazy. Yeah. I still look back at them as being like, awesome. Yeah. Great studio.
Yeah, because they were just, and the style was so different in each cinematic.
You could tell that it was.
Oh yeah, the quality was so high, and it was just super inspiring to see that. It looked like it's like when you can see that someone had fun doing it while also just pushing. Like it looked like that. Yeah. Was that how it felt being there, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Or you mean the Goon stuff specifically?
No, just like whatever came after as well. Like you were there for
It was very everything was like, I mean, not every project was super fun. There was definitely a few projects that were like, you just I mean, because everyone there is like so on top of their game.
Right.
You would just be like, I don't know. I was on edge a lot, but I was also so having such a good time too on the project. So it was like a mix of being like super happy and excited to be on the project, but also like really kind of nervous and didn't want to fuck anything up, especially since I was new.
Right.
But I mean, every show, it felt like back when I was there was only like 60, 70 artists, so it was small.
Wow.
Now I don't know how many 100 people, but
it must be huge though. Yeah.
But so when I was there, it just felt like it felt like an independent thing, and we were just.
Nice.
I don't know, like just piecing together projects, and the pipeline was kind of messy. It was really fun. It was super fun.
Yeah. So that must have felt more like, because I was going to ask you about games versus, because maybe we should just start by, so you were at Blur for 8 years, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Can you share some highlights, or?
Yeah. So I was at Blur for 8 years, and then, the first thing I ever worked on there was like I think the trailer for Bioshock.
Yeah, I think I watched that too.
One. Yeah, I don't know if you remember that one, but it was like the one where Big Daddy, which is like antagonist, I think, like puts a drill through this guy's hand and pulls it out, and that was like the first shot I ever did.
Holy shit! Wow.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, this is crazy, and everything. But back then, everything was they were using 3D Studio Max, so And so they were using Biped. I don't know if you've used or if anyone's ever used that, but it's like it's just really finicky and very like sort of a rigid way to work. And I'm assuming it's better. I think I'm not sure how many people are still using Max to animate, but I know a few studios are. Anyway, it was lots of limitations and stuff. I was coming from school where I'd used Maya, and then all of a sudden I was trying to learn Max at the same time as like, again, Blur's like really, because everything, the turnaround's really quick, the pace is super fast. So you're expected to get through like a lot of animation. Like, I don't even know what the quota would be. But it was a lot, especially for me.
Right.
But anyway, that was like the Bioshock thing was the first thing I worked on. Then they were making a transition after about a year that I was in from 3D Studio Max to Softimage. So for animation and rigging. So then I was like trying to learn how to use Softimage, and that was kind of tricky. That's when they were doing all the Halo cinematics. And they were doing ton. They did like a feature film's worth of cinematics for, I wish I knew, there was Halo Reach and some other stuff. But regardless, it was a lot. And that was like the test bed for using Softimage there.
Right.
And I started there as pretty much a junior animator, and then I eventually became a lead. But before I became a lead, I got thrown into supervising. After 2 or 3 years, I was supervising a Warhammer cinematic, which was insane. And I was so young, and I should not have been doing that.
But it turned out
great. It turned out really good. I mean, I was so stressed out.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, being the one, I went from, being the one going in and getting notes to having to give notes and feedback.
Yeah.
I was kind of put in a hard spot, and so was Blur. They asked me to do that because there was a lack of leadership at the time, and they needed somebody.
Right.
And I was an animator on the show, so for like a few weeks, and they were like, oh, well, I think their thinking might have been, oh, well, you know a little bit about the show already. You should be, because I think that the supervisor at the time left. So I stepped in that position. So that was, but I would say that was a highlight because I learned a lot by doing it. It was the Warhammer Age of Reckoning trailer cinematic. It was huge. We had like crowds and huge stuff. And
I think I watched that one.
Yeah, you've probably seen it.
Dude, I all those cinematics, like, I never played the games, but I would just
you just. So that's how I feel about. That's kind of how I feel about Blizzard, though. Like, I don't.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. Yeah.
But I like live to see their stuff.
Oh yeah, and there's so many good ones.
So many good ones, man.
That's so cool. But that was like trial by fire, being a supervisor.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was like, it was absolutely trial by fire.
Yeah.
Like, I was either gonna burn out and die, or like come out the other side and just be happy that I finished it. And I finished that, and then I was like, please let me just be an animator. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't think I can do this. It was too soon. I was like 23 or 22. I was way too.
Wow.
But and then I did that, and then I worked on a few other, a lot of projects.
How fast is the like one project? Because like we met in VFX, and a project can easily take a year and a half.
Yeah.
What was the timeline like at Blur, like for a project, like duration?
I wish I knew. It's hard to like. Let's see. So, for example, that Goon trailer, the short, it's like a proof of concept. It's almost like a short film. But I would say just for animation alone on that probably took 2 months probably. I think 2 or 3 months maybe.
That's
fast. It's super quick. But I would say 2-3 months like max, and then there's scene assembly and lighting and effects and stuff. So that takes further. But yeah, it was everything was so crazy. We did the next time that I supervised, we did all the cinematics, pre-rendered cinematics for a game called Dante's Inferno.
Yeah.
And that was, I forget the name of the developer. I don't know why I'm blanking on that, but we did that. We did like I think it was like 60 minutes. Yeah, it was like an hour's worth of cinematics for that, and that took us about 6 months or something.
That's fast.
Yeah, it was like 6 to 9 months ish.
Yeah.
Just for the animation.
And it's all full CG.
Yeah, full CG, motion capture. Because most of their stuff is motion capture.
Right.
Now I think it's half and half, or maybe even more so keyframe these days. But back when I was there, it was like that was my training ground for learning how to work with motion capture, because that's really what it was. Really, really rare being at Blur and then there being an all keyframe show, because all the animators would just rush to try to get on it, you know. And so those were like the golden. I mean, all the projects were amazing, but the ones that were keyframe and stylized are the ones that everybody wanted to be on. So it was motion capture. And Blur at the time, they were in Venice Beach in California. Now they're in Culver City, which is kind of just down the road. But it was like a warehouse that they were in. It was a super cool space, and they had this, like, I would call it like a makeshift motion capture stage in the back. Yeah. So it's cool. We could like go back there and just shoot whatever you needed, you know, like just about everything was filmed there, until scope on projects got bigger and bigger and bigger, and you needed more space, because it was like 30 feet by 40 feet or something. It wasn't a lot of space. So then they started graduating and hiring out, you know, that stuff. But, right. Yeah, it's always fun when you can have your like a personal touch on your work that way, and it was cool. It's weird. I think I've gone back. I look at my time there, and it was like I still look at just about most of my career is there, even though now my amount of time I left there in 2013. So now I've almost been gone as long as I was there. So that's not really true. But I look at it like that's where my career is still. Yeah. So I'm trying to talk Tim Miller into creating like a Blur North. Nice. Something in Canada. Cool. So I don't know. Hopefully that'll happen. I mean, if they keep doing the Love, Death and Robots stuff, I'm sure. Yeah, that looks. It's gonna keep getting bigger and bigger, right? Yeah, that looks amazing. It's also an interesting time with stuff like that, where it's like. You know, we've probably both heard this thing for more than a decade now, how it's like finally like animation is not only for kids, but I think finally there's like more streaming services and more distributors kind of like believing in it, even though adults have been watching animation for a long time. It's now it's more like very like the more mature audience is a key demographic for animation, and the streaming services know, so they kind of like start to bet on it a bit harder, which is cool, because man, there's so many opportunities now, like so much content to be made, and it's insane. I agree. Like I actually feel like I feel like the rest of the world is kind of late to understanding that that's the case, you know what I mean? Like, for a long time. I can't remember what really broke the.
Well, recently people talked a lot about how I think Spider-Verse had a lot of. I know that's very recent, but and then
Sausage. What was it? Sausage Party.
Sausage Party. That
was like that's the real one that like pops up where it was like blatant. For adults type stuff.
And but I also think because animation is so many things, right? Like anime has been on the rise for like decades now, and then there's also like stuff like South Park and The Simpsons and BoJack Horseman and that different avenue. But it's also animation, and it's there's so many really like so much cool content, like really like high quality stuff that's way better than in my opinion, BoJack Horseman is way better than most TV shows I've seen that live action.
I would definitely agree with that.
But it's like it's interesting because I was teaching these kids back home a while ago, and so few of them wanted to do 3D because they were all like super into like artsy 2D stuff, and
awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it's cool to see that there's actually a market that they'll actually get hired, and it's not like they're going to be poor, starving artists.
Yeah. Especially with shows like, now I think about like Rick and Morty.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah,
that to me really is like,
dude.
I don't know, because Simpsons sort of, I think Simpsons is still going on, but there was a time where it kind of started to fall off a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Just because a lot of that stuff, I feel like some things are driven into the ground. But while I still love The Simpsons so much.
Yeah.
Like Rick and Morty. There's just so much. There's just so much stuff. That's awesome. So it's good to like. I agree with you. I think there's always going to be. It's going to be. There's going to be those opportunities.
Right.
Where I think for a while, all of us in animation were worried that was just going to die out.
Yeah.
So.
And it's also with like, I transitioned into games recently, and you have a lot of games experience. It's like you learn some new software, and then you just you put down your keyframes, and there you go. Like it's still things moving on the screen as what you've been training to do, and so you just keep going. It's just slightly different, but not really. And after Blur, was that when you went into games, or?
No, so I actually don't have that much. I mean, I do have some game experience, but not as much as I think I was thinking I would have by this point. So when I was at Blur, I was there for 8 years, and then in 2013, I moved to while I was at Blur, I worked on a few films, like VFX shows, so I worked on the Deadpool trailer that got leaked. But that to me felt very VFX, even though it was completely CG, but the workflow it felt like it. But we also worked on Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and we did Thor, the Dark World, I think. And Spider-Man. We did like a bunch of like little things, and so I touched some of that stuff, and I really wanted to try my hand at visual effects.
Right.
So I left, and then I went to MPC in Montreal.
Right.
Which was a huge mistake. It was not a good experience.
Well, they have a certain reputation.
Yeah, they have, and they definitely lived up to that reputation.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, but it was, I wanted to try something just completely different. Seemingly. And so I did that. I went and worked on X-Men Days of Future Past. And so that was really the first time I worked for a visual effects company. So I was there for a little bit, and then I left Montreal, and because I was in Canada, I decided to try to stay in Canada. And then I moved just back to the West Coast, where I like the West Coast, and then to British Columbia, and interviewed with Microsoft for a game studio, which was called the Coalition. And that was my sort of intro to games, really. And so at the time, and they still are, the Coalition is sort of dedicated to the Gears of War franchise. Right. The way that 343 Industries is owned by Microsoft, and they're dedicated to the Halo franchise. So I interviewed there, and so I got onto their cinematics team.
Nice.
And so I was there for about a year or two as an animator. And we were doing cinematics. We were also helping out with gameplay as well. So that's why I say I have a little bit of like I look at gameplay animation as having like proper games experience. But most of my time was just spent in,
cinematics.
Cinematics. And at the time it was pre-rendered stuff. So it felt very much like Blur stuff, which I loved, and I felt super comfortable with that. But eventually everything moved away from being pre-rendered and moved into real time and Unreal. And that's when I started getting uncomfortable because I just had never messed with a real-time engine before. But I spent a long time there at that studio. I was there for like 6 years. So after 2 years, they asked me to be the lead or it's a supervising role. They call it a lead animator. In games, it's different, but the naming convention for that is different. But it's a supervisor. You're giving reviews, and you're hiring, and you're scheduling.
Right. Can I just you mentioned like there's some difficulties working with Unreal. Like what was the specifically like?
to be honest with you, I think for me, I was just sort of scared because I'd never messed with it before.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, and I also, and now it's not so much true, but when I was there, they were using Unreal 3, I think, yeah, Unreal 3. And while it looked great, it didn't look anything compared to pre-rendered. You can have unlimited particle effects, and you can have like some cloth simulations, and you can go nuts with your lighting. There's no limit to like the amount of lights you can have. And all of a sudden, we went from being able to do those things where you have like unlimited options. You can make it look as kick-ass as possible,
right,
and not worry about frame rates and things like that. But then all of a sudden, when we switch to it, you have to worry about frame rates, and so I was not happy about that because I could see the quality difference, and in my eye, I can still see that. I can still tell when things are real time. They look amazing, and they're gonna, but at that time specifically, it was, I was kind of like, no, that's not really what I wanted to. But I got to learn some of that stuff, and yeah, it was interesting. It was a lot. It's a AAA game studio, so it's very much, it was a bizarre experience where I went from, at Blur, you're definitely not a cog, in the system.
Oh, okay.
Like, you're like an artist and you have a really big part to play.
Wow.
I don't know about if that's, I'm hoping that's still the case there, but I'm not sure. But moving from that to, I was definitely a cog at NPC for sure. But yeah. And then I still felt that when I went to a AAA game studio, they had so much money floating around, and the team is huge because you're working on this gigantic worldwide entity.
Right.
So there's hundreds and hundreds of employees, including like QA testers, and it's just a huge staff. So you definitely don't feel creatively. It was not very fulfilling overall. But I got to learn more. It was more about managerial stuff, and how to try to be a better leader, and really care, because I was the only animator that was staff. Everybody else was contract.
Oh, okay.
In the next department, so we would work on a title. I was there for 3 titles, and each one of those is like a 2-year cycle.
Wow.
So we would hire a full team, and then we'd have to lay them off, and hire another team, and then lay them off, and so.
Oh, that's some big shoes.
Yeah. It was. I didn't. Overall, I would say I didn't enjoy it. But there were some good times there. But I think creatively, I wasn't. I'm going on a tangent.
No. I see what you're saying though. Like you can't. It's hard to be in that flow of animating yourself when you have to, kind of take care of a team and support them and give notes and like you said, also be on top of that. You probably had to do a lot of scheduling as well.
Yeah. It was a lot of at the time I looked at it as if I was doing a lot of things that in my mind, I thought maybe a producer should be doing. Right.
It sounds like it.
Yeah. But it was still a learning experience. But so I got to learn a lot of it. Was just a lot of stress, really.
Yeah.
I think the quality of what we were doing was really good. I think considering we did the biggest thing I thought in terms of quality, in terms of learning from an artistic standpoint, we went from Gears of War 4, and then there was a time there between 4 we wrapped. We did pre-production for Gears 5. We decided to throw away all of our facial rigs and then redo the face rigs that we were doing.
Wow.
And come up with a better way of doing facial animation. And facial is hard. It's so hard. It's hard.
Very hard. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were basically keyframing it for before this, and it was just hard to get it to a really great polished level. So what I was doing was, with a few other people, was just investigating the best way to revamp our facial to make it look realistic and super high quality without having to spend a ton of time on it. So we ended up going with something called Faceware, which is definitely an industry standard. But at that time, I really didn't know much about it. And then we did a lot of R&D, and we zeroed in on making a case to use that because it was expensive.
Yeah.
And that whole process was really interesting. And I think that was the biggest maybe the biggest impact that I might have had there, which was just deciding to go that route. And then, so that was really cool to see once Gears 5 was in full production and seeing the level of quality.
Wow.
That was really cool. So I feel like I did feel like a cog there, but that was the only time. That was one of the few times where I felt like I actually was making a difference in kind of stuff. And I felt like the quality of work was really overall was really good.
Yeah, man, that's such a learning curve. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. It was crazy. I was very uncomfortable for most of that time. Like,
oh wow,
it wasn't a time when I was like really, really, like where I was A, creatively happy, and then B, just happy with the way that the show was going and the way that the game was going, and just happy to be there. There was always something to worry about, And,
so it sounds like well, if we can just where you are now, like it sounds like you've well, I have an idea that maybe you found a happy in between the two, because you are a lead now, but you're also animating yourself, right?
Yeah, I'm actually not a lead at Tangent.
Oh, okay.
I'm more of a senior role.
Okay.
It's interesting. It's kind of, so I left, when I left Coalition, I was like, all right, I finally got my permanent residency status in Canada. And
nice.
I was like, cool, I'm a free agent. I can. So I went to TNEG, which is where you and I met.
Yeah.
And that was like, I'd always wanted to go there, and I was super excited. And overall, that was awesome. It was a great experience. The show was hard, but it was awesome, and I thought everyone was really cool and made a lot of really great connections, and it was awesome. And then, but I was VFX is just a different beast. I feel like VFX is like it's so precise and very, from an animation standpoint, you might not be fulfilled animation wise, or you might. I feel like it depends on the show and the way that it's run.
Yeah. It definitely varies a lot.
Yeah, it varies a lot. There's like a big scale. It's a sliding scale. And
right.
So what I learned from going from VFX to a more animated, like feature place, which is where I'm at now, I feel super comfortable because it's that sliding scale really isn't there anymore. It's just, now I'm not leading, I'm just in the trenches as an animator and just producing the art, and it is just 100% pure animation. There's no live action plates or anything like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, the long way of answering is like, I definitely feel really comfortable and happy right now.
Yeah.
The way that lined up right now in my life, where the way it is it's a really good balance.
You did have a lot of time there and a lot of experience with being the one giving the feedback, though. And like, how did you find any like any good ways of approaching people, of how to, like, would you start with like, this is great, but or how did you? Yeah. What was your method of kind of like getting the point across and still having them feel like they own the shot or be happy about it?
Yeah. That's a good question. I feel like at the beginning,
tricky.
Yeah, it's tricky. At the beginning, when I first started, giving feedback, because I was also the one scheduling the dailies, so I would get like super nervous because I'm like, I'm rounding up like 6 to 7 animators. I gotta schedule it, make sure the room is open,
right?
All that stuff, and then on top of that, I gotta make sure that I've watched all the shots enough. I can just have it in my head of like, foot placements off here, instead of, because I don't want to be in the room and watching it and then coming up with the notes on the spot. There's just too much to do.
Yeah.
But eventually that all became second nature, and I got really comfortable with that. But at the beginning, giving notes, I didn't start with it looks great, but I think I came right out of the gate giving right like direct feedback on stuff.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that for some animators, it works really great in their response, but other animators not so much.
Yeah.
Some animators don't want they want you to like really look at the shot and the work that they've done as a whole, and then like if I learned to also change my approach. I think depending on the artist though too, which I think was a really big turning point because there would be an individual where I'm like, I love what you did with this art. That's awesome. Maybe let's just try to adjust it just a little bit here on this frame and this frame and this frame.
Yeah.
That I would say for the most part worked out really well. Where I would just take in the whole shot as a whole and then find the things that I really thought worked really, really well. And I wouldn't necessarily have to come out first with those things, the positive things, and then go into notes because I didn't want it to feel like positive and then like a yes but type of situation.
Because it's so easy to see through that, right?
It is totally. I see it all the time, As an artist where I'm currently at, sometimes it does help because I'm like, okay, cool, it just helps. Okay, well, what I put my sweat into is noticed.
Exactly.
Nice. So I think to answer your question, I like at the beginning I think I was uncomfortable at the time of being the only one giving feedback because it wasn't just like it stopped at me. So that was the one thing. At Blur, it was different because it wasn't just me. It was like Tim Miller, the director, or still had eyes on it and still could give their feedback. But with me, it was just a lot of pressure. Like it's not going to get any better. You need to try to catch as much as you can and get those notes, which was a lot of pressure.
Yeah, definitely.
But so to answer your question, I think it was like at the end of the day, I felt like I was tailoring the way that I was giving feedback for the artist. But in general, you always do have to have like sprinkle some good stuff in there. Which I was so happy to do too. It's not just like I hate saying it that way because it makes it feel so premeditated, and it does feel that way when someone does say like, "Oh, it looks great, but let's do this." Like an automated thing. Yeah. But I just love animation in general. Like what I like to do is nerd out. Yeah. At the same time as giving feedback.
Definitely.
And I feel like that felt. Just being really genuine about it. I don't know. I feel like that's not the best answer, but
no. I think you're right. I think it's there's no one way of doing anything, right? So it's so. But I find the similar thing that it's like if you can just get excited about it, then people will feel that it's real, and it's not like, it's going great, but that it's like that whole like it doesn't feel like formulaic. Totally. So it's I think there's just like genuine excitement and everyone is not taking anything personally. We're just talking about the shot and we're talking about what's cool about the shot and how we can make the shot stronger. Totally. It's not about what's bad. It's just about what could be clear and what can we I found the same when I started leading and giving feedback and but it's like you said, like it has to be tailored somehow because animators can. I'm sure it goes for a lot of groups, but animators can be a bunch of sensitive flowers.
Totally. That's definitely me.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I am too, and it's it's such a funny thing because we're all sitting there. Do you know that feeling like you're working on a shot and then you're in that flow and it feels so good and you're just like, fuck, I think they're going to come up with a new award for just this one thing I'm doing with this hand or whatever. And like this feeling, and then you step away from it and you come back with a cup of coffee and you look at it and it's fucking horrible. It's terrible. It's like oh, they're going to fire me. And it's like, you just go in that spectrum, you swing back and forth and then there's the other thing of wanting to express like something inner, like an inner vision or something, but you still have to do what you're told in a way. So there's this whole I know this is not every animator, but I've seen a lot of people like me who are quite sensitive, and then you have to kind of figure out how to navigate it, so that you don't put too much into it, so that when it gets taken out or whatever, it's like, fuck, you get all deflated. You need to be able to just go like, okay, this is not my vision. I'm helping out. I'm having fun. My shot is my little playground where I can have fun, and then I can do my own visions on the side. And it seems like you have a similar way of thinking about it, or
yeah, absolutely. I think well, so the first thing I want to go back as well, like another thing that really helped me with giving feedback, I just thought of while you were was just that the more time that went by, I think another important thing was that I was also, as the lead, I opened up the floor to all the other animators to speak up, which I think is really important.
Right.
I don't see that much in VFX really, but it depends on the studio. But whether it's games or VFX, it doesn't matter. I think it's really, that was the best for me coming from a more managerial position. It took off the stress from me because I got to open up the floor to everybody.
Right.
You know? So I was trying to encourage other animators to comment on their peers' work. At the same time that I was giving feedback. And so I actually got to use my team as sort of a little bit of a soundboard. Like I was confident in the feedback I was giving, but I also, that was another really helpful thing, I think. Yeah. I think it's like to open it up so people feel free to be able to speak and give, and give that feedback. Anyway, and then, going back to, just, you were talking about, I think ultimately just trying not to get too married to the work that you're doing, being able to like disconnect a little bit. That took so long for me.
Me too.
I never properly did that at Blair, I don't think. I think I put everything I had. I was so attached to every shot, so much. It was crazy. It made getting feedback more painful than it should have been, but that was, not that I was taking it personally, but I was kind of like, oh man, all right. I just felt like I didn't think everything I was doing was gold, but I like you said, everything was a playground. Like, that was a playground, and but I was so connected to those things, and then over time, eventually, I was like, oh okay, it's a lot easier for me. I'll do a lot better if I don't get so. I think you need to get invested, but choose which maybe shots you're going to get so invested in, or choose which show it is. I feel like I can allow myself to get really close to what I'm doing in this, or is the supervisor or director very, maybe a little bit wishy-washy in what they want, and so there's going to be time to figure that out, and maybe you don't want to get too married to what you're doing because
definitely
just have fun. Just have fun exploring that stuff. I think we experienced that on a show that we were working on. But and that goes back to having my own vision on work.
Brian, can I just? I need a pee break.
Okay, cool.
We'll just cut it out. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
No, we were thanks. No, we were talking about the artist versus the team player, right?
Well, I was talking about more just talking about not getting the amount of that you get invested into a shot, and wanting to have your own voice, and like how to get that out, and but the most appropriate ways to do that. I think that I while I'm not exactly sure how to answer, but how to know when to get that stuff up. One thing that did help me a lot with that was pursuing like personal projects. And so what I found was when I was at NBC, I ran into a situation where I felt my supervisor and my lead were, it just wasn't not a huge fan. You know, the way that I was getting that feedback.
Sometimes, yeah.
They didn't do many services as an artist on that show, which in my opinion is what they're supposed to, that's the job, you know?
Right.
So what I did is I came away from that show with like I lost a lot of confidence because I felt like, okay, I didn't do well on that show, and I did feel that way. I didn't do well on that, and I put so much of myself into that show, and I was like, how do I not do that again? You know? And so what I did was, while I was in Montreal before I moved, I started doing personal work at home, and I found that like that was super, it was obviously really creative, and it was really fulfilling because I got to just do what I wanted to do, you know, and it like kind of fed me a lot.
Yeah.
So I kept doing that while I moved and while I spent all my time, you know, at the Coalition, and I was in that lead role.
Oh, Brent, did something happen to your audio, or it just got really low all of a sudden? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, it's better. I don't know.
Is it better?
Yeah,
Is it better?
it's good now. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, yeah, let me know if that.
Yeah. No, this is perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm also like so you posted this really cool piece on Frame for, and you posted the finished like you posted some iterations there, and then you posted the finished piece on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It was a collaboration with your brother, and we'll cut it in, but it's like a silhouette of a man bouncing around, and then he ends up like posing in frame with a gun, and he blows his brains out, and then the brain kind of becomes, the brain circles around and becomes the man bouncing again and looping, and so it goes, and it's like and I think your caption was about how we as artists experience some kind of or to some degree anxiety or depression, and the only way through is the only way to deal with it is through and work your way through it. So it's like it seems like you found like in your personal projects you found like an outlet for something a bit deeper that maybe there wasn't quite room for at work, or that's perfect way to put it. It's exactly what it was. I felt like that was because I have anxiety and depression, and so that's something that I deal with, and I feel like being able to do that kind of stuff on the side helps me. It's like no matter what's going on professionally, I can like or not like what I'm working on as an animator. Right.
But now, because I have those side projects going on, I don't really have to worry so much about, am I happy on this show, or am I producing good stuff for a demo reel? A lot of people, and I think a lot of animators think in terms of that, and I still kind of do in terms of, is this going to go on my reel? Can this go on my reel? You know, and you put value on that, which is warranted, like it's worthwhile. But by doing side stuff, and if it's something that you actually really think looks really cool and good, maybe that could go on your reel. And so all of a sudden, you've taken all this pressure off of what you're doing, in a professional way. And it becomes a little bit more like a job, which is good, because I think that goes to me that it's good that it kind of feels a little bit more like that, because you're not married so much to what you're doing, and you can distance yourself a little bit, you know? And you also get to give your inner voice to this background, the side projects that you're doing at home. That's all you, and you can you have that. You're like, well, that's all me. I don't have to worry so much if that's not coming out. And
exactly. It's like at work, it's like you almost can't afford to get too attached, because you're so not in control, right? So it's you easily set yourself up for being like let down in a way, when everyone else is deciding what's going to happen. But like you said, with your own projects, you're the one calling the shots. So yeah, that's why you can really like let it all out and allow yourself to be vulnerable and
yeah, absolutely. I feel like, to go on what you were saying, you set yourself up in a situation like at a studio or at your job, if you do feel like you're super tied to what you're doing, which is, that's a fine line to be passionate about what you're doing.
Right. Yeah.
But not so much that you feel like you're just getting abused.
Yeah.
You get feedback and you get jerked around a lot and you're like, you feel like you're getting, kicked out of you a little bit. So getting that invested is not good. So it's like finding that fine line.
Yeah.
I feel like, you put it perfectly,
Are you ever seeing yourself kind of like melting, letting the barriers kind of like, so like do a personal project professionally, like directing your own thing or
that's a really good question. What I'm doing right now is I posted a few like little samples to Framethrower. I'm actually gonna do. I ran into an issue uploading, and I talked to Jacob about that.
Oh, okay.
Offline. But I think he fixed it for me.
Okay.
So I'm doing a little short. It's like a short. It's like 30 seconds, maybe 40 seconds.
Nice.
And the skipping boy you saw. Like,
yeah.
So that's something where I'm like, cool. I'm like kind of directing this, and I really like it. And I've gathered up a few artists on it too.
Nice.
I'm just taking care of the animation and some rigging stuff, and then I've got another friend just doing some environment modeling, and another friend doing like a little character.
Yeah.
And then my brother's going to help me. Hopefully, if we stop fighting, but he's going to help me do some 2D effects type motion graphic stuff.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I feel like I really like it. So when I do this stuff, and it actually is coming together rather well right now, where it feels organized.
Yeah.
I can see myself doing. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah.
But I also, when I'm like, so part of me right now is like, I'm enjoying it so much because I know there's no deadline really, and it is really lax and loose, and it's just my friends.
Yeah.
So I can see how things would change if you're doing. But I actually do. I'd like to. I want to see how this goes, and then.
It's a good. It sounds like a good soft test to try it out.
Totally. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And you mentioned your brother. Is he only doing 2D or?
So my brother is Nick Whitmire, and he works at Bungie Studios in Seattle, and so he's knee deep in all the Destiny stuff that they're doing.
Yeah.
And he's also an animator, so he's works in their Cinemax department. And he does 3D stuff, but he's also on the side. He does a ton of like 2D motion graphics type stuff.
Yeah.
And super, really cool. And I it's weird because we're twins, and so we've always liked kind of the same things, but I don't know how he does that stuff. Like that's a path he went where I definitely was like, I don't want to do it. No, it looks like mind melting to do that stuff.
Yeah. It looks amazing. I've seen his stuff. Yeah.
It looks awesome, but it looks so painful to do. So, so I kind of, in regards to what I'm working on now, this little short project, I sort of wrote in some spots for him to do his thing.
Nice.
So that we could kind of work together. But when we work together, we hate each other. So I don't know. We keep doing this. It's ridiculous. We work on projects together, and then one will say something to piss the other one off, and then we just hate each other. And then I'm like, I'm never gonna work with you again. And then 8 days later, we're like, hey, what are you doing? And then like, you know, work on this? It's like, it's so stupid. It's ridiculous.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I think it's just a cycle that's going to keep going until one of us dies. But it's, you know. We're both artists. We should work on stuff together. Why do we not? Why would we not? That's so stupid.
Are you?
We do it, and then.
Yeah.
I think it's mostly his fault, but.
Of course.
Of course. And then and then one of us gets offended because, like you and I were saying. Yeah. You know, like we're sensitive people, like artists, in general, and I think animators. We're just very. yeah, and just get so attached to what we're doing, whether you try to or not, or
Yeah.
but, and especially with personal work though, that because you're all in on that stuff.
Oh yeah, it's
finish it. You have to be so passionate about it. So you're very sensitive about that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Are you guys a lot alike, or are you different?
Yeah, yeah. I think we're really alike.
Yeah.
I think as time goes on, I think we become a little bit less.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. Like but we're very much alike. We like the same kind of music, the same style. Like I think we animate. Our style is really similar. It's kind of weird. Like he likes to do just action based body mechanics. We both have that sort of as a forte. Like we like to do like maybe like fighting or jumping around, like stuff that's very dynamic action and creature. Dynamic and creature work is really what we both like, and then acting and emotional performance stuff is kind of like I don't know. I like that stuff, but I'm so bad at it. Yeah, dude, it's so hard, and so that's why at Tangent I'm learning how to really do that stuff.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah. Like I spent today just filming reference, like, and then sending it in, and then getting someone to comment, my lead to comment on it, and then go film again, and then go film again.
Oh wow, nice.
So it's like I've never really experienced that. Like
it's like proper acting.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's cool. But then I'm like, man, I just want to make someone jump around, and just kind of when you miss games and that kind of stuff too.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's cool. Yeah. It's cool that you're still finding those steep learning curves, because that's like acting in front of the camera and then showing someone who's going to give you notes. That's putting yourself out there, and that's not easy after having worked in this industry for like a decade. A lot of people just go like, reference, fuck that. I'm just gonna, It's
hard, especially like. It's one thing to just do someone jumping or running or walking and doing these things when it's more just like body mechanics and what is the body doing, and that sounds awesome, and I'll always film for that. But this is like actual acting, and I'm like such a shit. I feel like I'm really like, but I'm getting better at that too, which is cool, and it's good because the people that I'm working with, they have more of. It's weird. They have like more of an eye for, is the performance there. And they don't give a shit about what the center of mass is doing or the arms are doing. They don't care about any of that stuff at all. They're just like, does the pose look good? Like we don't like. I don't care about what the character's doing to get into the pose or after. Like, is the main pose reading really well? And that's like animation 101 kind of stuff that you focus on posing and you want your poses to look really good, but this is like hyper. It's like. They want you to think graphically, and I think VFX is not really like that. I mean, obviously posing and these poses need to look really, really great, and but this is kind of it's like a whole other level.
Yeah, no, I can see that also. In VFX, it's all about the, it has to feel real. Like it has to. It
has to be real. It has to feel realistic.
Yeah, and if it doesn't, then the whole shot is like, why, the whole thing falls flat. So, and realistic poses they tend to be a little bit more subtle. They're not as sharp and
totally. I think it's kind of a stylized thing too, because coming from DNEG to this was really interesting because
I bet.
Like here they're like, we want the character to hit this pose and then like just stop. Like just stop. And I'm like, that looks like lazy animation. Like, they didn't just set a key and then just not put keyframes after it, I don't know. I think about it. You want it to keep moving a little bit. They're like, stop it. Stop doing that. It's like, that's been the hardest thing actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because like, you can literally, like in feature stuff, for me, I'm trying to get used to it. You can literally get away with someone going into a pose. I mean, there has to be an ease in and things like that. Sure. If they hit something that looks really dynamic, you can let that do the talking for you. Yeah. I mean, it's always a stylistic thing. You can't do that on every show, but that's been like the biggest thing I think that I'm still like. I just had a review last week, and they were like, you gotta stop trying to keep your character moving. You don't have to do that.
Oh, that would be so hard.
It's really hard because I'll submit something and I'm like, this looks
Also because that's like but the cool thing is though, like for you now getting from pose A to B, like all the body mechanics, that's what's been beaten into you for so long. So now it's intuitive, right?
Yeah, totally. Then you can go in and add those things and make it. Yeah, it's almost like you're building a bridge. That's how I look at it right now when I'm blocking. Just like first pose A and then pose B.
Yeah.
Both of those have to be super strong, and then don't worry about how you're gonna get there. Then you can worry about the mechanics to get there, and that's
right. Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know, man. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
But you're right. You're like you said originally. I mean, it's cool to still be learning, stuff, which I think is why that's why I went there. You know.
Yeah.
Because I knew it was going to be. I don't know. It's just really difficult, but it's been a great, really cool experience. So.
Cool, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's cool to see that you're pushing. It seems like you're always going to do that, so that's cool.
I hope so.
Yeah, but I think this might be a good place to end. I have no idea how long that was, but it was awesome.
Really good one, man.
Yeah, it was a great talk. I'll just we'll talk later. I'll probably ask you to do this again.
Yeah, man, I like it. We should just do this every Tuesday.
Yeah, let's do that.
Just hang out and record it.
All right, I'll just click stuff here. Okay, see you, man.
All right, cool. Talk to you later.